Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a whole stack of forward-looking sources all focused on the year in tech 2026.
Mm.
And our mission is, well, it's pretty simple. We want to cut through all of that relentless technological turbulence and give you some pure, actionable insight into the forces reshaping, well, everything right now.
And turbulence is absolutely the right word. We aren't talking about small changes here.
Yeah.
Our sources remind us that historically, these massive shifts are only really clear in hindsight. Sir Francis Bacon pointed to three technologies, the printing press, the compass, and gunpowder, that he said changed the appearance and state of the whole world.
Right.
The thing is, today we're living through three or four of those at the same time. AI, autonomous systems, mixed reality.
Which brings us to a concept our sources are calling the messy middle. This is that unavoidable period of chaos between the old way and the new normal. We love talking about the shiny new invention, but the real fight happens right in the middle.
And the best example of this has to be the automobile, specifically the Model T.
Right.
Henry Ford achieves this incredible technological win. He uses mass production, and the price of the Model T drops from $850 in 1908 all the way down to just $260 by 1924.
So cars are suddenly in the hands of ordinary people.
Exactly. And you'd think, okay, story over, innovation successful. But no.
No, because now you have to win what they called the battle for the soul of the streets.
Yes, cities were designed for people and horses. Suddenly there's chaos, there's congestion, there's, frankly, carnage.
And a PR war breaks out.
A fascinating one. Motorists, trying to shift the blame, they coined the term jaywalker. And it was meant as a slur, A jay was slang for an uneducated country person who didn't know their way around a city.
They literally weaponized language.
They did. And the pedestrians fought back. They tried to brand reckless drivers as flivver boobs.
Flivver boobs, I love that. A flivver was a cheap car, right?
A cheap, junky car plus boob. It's a great word, but here's the insight for today. Jaywalker stuck. It entered the language. It changed how we manage cities, prioritizing cars.
And flivver boob just vanished.
It was gone in a few years. So this shows that disruption isn't just tech. It's messy societal shifts, it's culture, and crucially, it's about who controls the language of the change.
So the fight over language is actually the fight for control. That's a critical way to look at AI today. We are deep in that messy middle.
Absolutely. And as we jump into the details, there are three big lessons we can pull from this.
Okay.
First, innovation is a collective thing. It's not the job of a few brilliant people. You need system-level enablers. When FICO tried to implement advanced AI, they found their biggest problem wasn't the code.
It was what they called an organization and people problem.
Exactly, getting everyone aligned. The second lesson is that innovation is predictably unpredictable. You have to expect surprises.
You can't just assume the big tech giants will corner the market.
No, and that's where DeepSeek R1 comes in. In early 2025, this incredibly powerful reasoning model just sort of appeared from a non-traditional source, competing with models from labs with billions in funding. It proves that breakthroughs can come from anywhere.
Okay, and the third lesson?
Patient perseverance. What looks like an overnight success is usually decades of work.
Like ChatGPT. It felt instant, but if you go back to the 1956 Dartmouth conference, it really arrived in AI's year 66.
It's just like P&G and disposable diapers. A huge success, but only after they failed in the market all the way back in 1956. The system, the culture, it all had to mature.
Okay, so let's use those three ideas, collective effort, expecting the unpredictable, and patient perseverance, to unpack where AI is headed next. We're moving beyond AI that just generates things, right? Are we moving into an era of AI that actually acts?
Absolutely. We are moving from generative models into the era of agentic AI. The key word here is proactiveness. It's not about generating text, it's about acting.
So how is that different from what we have now?
Well, current generative AI answers a prompt like, read a summary of this. But an agentic AI is autonomous. It can take a goal, let's say, maximize sales of this product, and then it decides the best sequence of actions to get there without you holding its hand.
So it's carrying out complex tasks on its own, searching databases, triggering workflows.
Negotiating deals, all of it, independently.
That feels like a huge leap in capability. What are the big benefits here?
First is specialization. You can have agents for incredibly specific tasks, just like Adam Smith's pin factory. One for information retrieval, one for analysis, another for orchestrating the whole process. It's a massive efficiency gain.
And that specialization, it drives innovation, right?
Precisely. These agentic systems are perfect for experimentation. For example, the chemistry agent ChemCrow was used to autonomously synthesize a new insect repellent. And on the trust side, they seem less prone to hallucinations because they're designed to check and verify multiple sources.
And we're already seeing this in the real world. That's always the test.
Customer service is a huge one. There's a startup, using agents that proactively solve problems. Instead of waiting for a complaint, the system sees if delivery is going to be late, it automatically tells the customer and offers a discount. No human involved.
The most profound use case I saw was in healthcare.
That's where the soft skills come in. Hippocratic AI developed an agent called Sarah for assisted living. And Sarah doesn't just answer medical questions. She helps organize menus, she reminds patients about their medication, and offers compassionate support.
That leads us right into this idea of living intelligence. This is where AI stops being just a digital tool and really starts to merge with the physical and biological world.
Right. Living intelligence is the convergence of three pillars: AI, advanced sensors, and biotechnology. If AI is the brain, then sensors are the eyes and ears. They're the data engines.
And sensors are the next big general purpose technologies. I mean, your smartphone already has a dozen of them, but it's about to get way more intimate.
We're moving towards biological sensors. Think nanobots in your bloodstream, monitoring your health in real time. That's the kind of data flow AI needs to manage complex systems.
And the AI itself is changing to handle that data. We're
Sure.
shifting from large language models, LLMs, that predict what to say.
To large action models, LAMs, that predict what to do next. They're optimized for real-world tasks.
And those won't stay generic for long.
No, they'll quickly become PLAMs, personal lambs, that manage your schedule, negotiate for you, and anticipate what you need. And CLAMs, corporate lambs running operations for whole businesses.
And this all accelerates when you bring in bioengineering. Tell us about generative biology.
So generative biology, or GenBio, uses AI to design totally new biological parts. Companies like Ginkgo Bioworks are creating custom enzymes, basically speeding up evolution in a lab.
Which brings us to the concept that really blurs the line. Organoid intelligence. OI.
This is the deep end of the pool for sure. OI uses lab-grown brain cells organoids to create biological computers.
The dish brain experiment.
Dish brain, exactly. Researchers taught this organoid about 1 million human and mouse brain cells on electrodes to play the video game Pong. And it actually got better the more it played.
That is just mind-bending. But the takeaway isn't just a party trick. It suggests a whole new kind of computing is possible.
It forces us to see that the future is messy, but also that these systems are becoming deeply intertwined. So let's pull back now and talk about the shadow of all this, the systemic risks we have to manage right now.
And the biggest one is trust. When 52% of Americans are more concerned than excited about AI, you have a huge trust problem. These models are black boxes, and the only cure for that is transparency, accountability.
Which is where the FICO case study gives us a really practical solution. FICO needed to prove his AI lending models were fair and explainable. So they adopted a private blockchain.
To create an immutable record, what does that actually track?
It tracks everything: the data, the algorithms, the ethics tests, even which data scientists worked on which part of the model. They put their whole analytic tracking document process on this chain.
And the business value was huge, faster time to market, and they cut model recalls and support issues by over 90%. But their leadership said the tech wasn't the hardest part.
No, it was behavioral. It was that organization and people problem. Again, they had to make the compliance process seamless for the data scientists. The UI had to be frictionless, so adherence was the default, not an extra step.
So FICO learned that lesson proactively. Others are learning it the hard way. And the most dramatic example from this past year was the CrowdStrike glitch.
That was a global wake-up call. A single update from one cybersecurity firm crashes over 8.5 million systems worldwide. The estimated losses were over $5 billion.
And Delta Airlines alone is claiming over $500 million.
That whole incident just exposed massive gaps in our infrastructure. It brings up 4 crucial questions we have to answer now.
Okay, what's the first one?
First is risk assessment. How do you quantify if an update, which is supposed to reduce risk, actually increases the overall risk of a total meltdown? Clearly, that math failed here.
Second is mitigation. Delta claims CrowdStrike forced the update even on customers who had auto updates turned off.
Which raises the question of who decides when to apply an update? Who gets to make that risk calculation?
The third column is resiliency. After the crash, who's to blame for the slow recovery? CrowdStrike points a finger at Delta's antiquated IT, while Delta sues them for gross negligence.
Exactly. We need standards for business recovery. And finally, accountability. Who pays for the billions in losses? CrowdStrike points to its liability cap, which is in the single-digit millions.
Leaving billions uncovered, it's a huge gap.
A huge urgent ambiguity between vendors and their clients.
And speaking of unintended consequences, there's the environmental shadow. The resource drain from all this AI activity is, well, it's shocking.
It is alarming. The computing power for AI training is set to increase tenfold by 2026. Goldman Sachs thinks that's going to boost power demand by 160% by 2030.
So what's the mitigation strategy? It sounds like we have to be smarter across the whole AI lifecycle.
Exactly. Start with the model. Instead of training a giant model from scratch, use an existing foundation model. And IBM found that smaller models trained on really high-quality data can be 3 to 5 times more efficient.
And where you run the AI matters.
That's the hybrid cloud approach. Minimize how far your data has to travel and pick data centers that use renewable hydropower over coal, for instance.
And 90% of the carbon footprint comes from the inferencing phase, right, when people are actually using the model.
So the right hardware is crucial. Specialized processors can be up to 14 times more energy efficient. And now, developers can use open source tools like the Kepler project to estimate the energy costs of their code as they're writing it.
That brings us to our final segment, how all this is shaping strategy and the future of work. And we have to start with this new dynamic in the labor market. Data cooperatives.
The tension here is obvious. You saw it with the 2023 Writers Guild strike. They won protections against AI writing scripts or being trained on their material.
But those are hard to enforce long term.
Very. And the core issue is that AI is starving for data. All that data workers generate, emails, code, creative ideas, is now a critical factor of production. But the organization usually owns it.
And if you get rid of the human worker, the AI models suffer from what they call model decay. They don't have fresh data, so they become static and less useful.
So the workers have to find a way to reclaim the value from the data they create.
And that's through data cooperatives.
Right. They're the new labor frontier. Organizations like SWASH or the Data Workers Union let workers pool and collectively monetize their data. It gives them bargaining power, just like a traditional union, to get compensated for the data that keeps the AI valuable.
So companies need to get ahead of this.
Absolutely. They should assess their own data resources, maybe using a tool like the Workers' Algorithm Observatory. And more importantly, they should start proactively putting data cooperative clauses in employment contracts now. It's about transparency and retaining talent.
Transparency is also critical when you're dealing with slow-cooking technologies.
The history of autonomous vehicles is the perfect example. Ford had a remote-controlled car in 1925. GM had a guidance system in 1958.
But the product only becomes viable when all the underlying technologies, LiDAR, GPS, AI, converge at the right price and feasibility point.
And that took decades. LiDAR costs fell from millions to under $200. GPS costs fell to under $5. Only then do you hit the cost convergence window.
And if you miss that window, like Eastman Kodak did with digital photography, it can be devastating.
So the strategy isn't to track one technology, it's to track a whole suite of them using a matrix.
The technology feasibility matrix.
Right. You plot feasibility versus cost. It tells you if a technology suite is a moonshot, mission critical, a magic bullet, or ready for the mass market. Your strategy completely depends on where you are in that timeline.
Finally, let's turn to the biggest strategic challenge, the future of work itself. Our sources covered this fascinating study of 570 experts whose predictions about AI and labor were all over the map.
They found that the predictions really broke down along 3 different field frames based on the experts' backgrounds. First, you had the optimists.
The tech entrepreneurs.
The tech entrepreneurs who saw radical job-creating abundance ahead. Then you had the skeptics, mostly economists, who believed new jobs would be created based on rational market forces.
And finally, the pessimists.
Often authors and journalists who basically believed that big business would just use automation to cut labor costs, leading to widespread displacement.
So the real insight here is that the future isn't set. It's impossible to predict objectively. The debate isn't actually about technology.
No, it's an arena for values, politics, ideology, and imagination. Whether AI creates or destroys jobs depends entirely on the choices we make now, the regulations, the investments, not just on the tech itself.
That is a crucial synthesis. We've seen this shift to proactive agentic AI, the need for trust mechanisms like FICO's blockchain, and the need to manage systemic risks like CrowdStrike and the environmental costs. It all points to looking beyond just the immediate tech breakthrough.
And we talked about the rise of PLAMs, personal large action models, that will manage your tasks, negotiate for you, anticipate your needs, all based on your data. If the value these agents generate comes from your data, from your identity, then the question really changes.
It's no longer, what will the future be like?
It becomes, what do we want the future to be like?
So with that framework, that the future is a matter of our collective choice, what power and influence do you currently lack to ensure your desired outcome? And who should you be proactively partnering with starting today to help shape that future? That's the homework we'll leave you with.